My friends, it's begun. The technocracy has made its move, and Twitter purged Donald Trump from their platform along with 60,000 other users by the looks. They're saying it was just a they need verification of these users, but I'm not confident that that's the case. In addition, it looks like because of this purge, Parler crashed last night in the wake of this news as people fled from Twitter to join the free speech platform. Almost immediately after this was found to be the case, Google purged Parler from their Play Store, and Apple is threatening to do the same if Parler does not, by the end of today, come up with the same rules as Twitter so that Apple and Google can demand they purge these same personalities off of Parler. This is insane. Alt tech is blowing up in the business sense. They're getting bigger. They're going to balloon because Facebook and Twitter and Google and Apple have got too much power. That's what it comes down to. They have too much power. I don't know what better way to put that. Does that mean that what happened on Wednesday was good, or what the president has been saying is good? No. No, I've said it many times, and I've been fairly consistent about this, that President Trump says stupid things. He says a lot of stupid things. He should not be sitting on his toilet at 4 a.m. tweeting random shit on the internet. But he does have the right. You know, I have joked, and there, I've got more on this later, but I have joked that when Donald Trump got elected, Don Jr. should have grabbed the phone from him, dropped it in the golden toilet, and hit the flush. I have stated that. It was a joke. But that doesn't mean that I actually want him purged off of social media. The problem is that when you purge people off of social media, when you take away their voice, all you do is shove them into corners where they become more radical. And it's for that very reason that the garbage that happened on Wednesday happened. And it's only going to get worse. We got a lot to go into today. So here it is, folks. The technocracy is struck. And now we know who our overlords are. We're navigating the cyberpunk dystopia. This is the Julien McBain Show. As always, the Julien McBain Show is brought to you by my patrons, without whose support I could not do this, or this would be a lot tougher. So, okay. Here's the deal. I can understand a lot of frustration and anger from the American people over what happened on Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday. Yeah, it had to be Wednesday. I sat there in disbelief, in shock, in anger, and in fear when I found out that the Capitol had been breached. And I kept track of it. I have to. That's part of one of my jobs, is to keep track of stuff like this. And so, as I watched this, worried about what would happen throughout that day. And unfortunately, 5 people died. 1 person was shot by Capitol Police, and I was mistaken initially on why she was shot. I thought she was shot for trying to breach this House chamber. Apparently that was not the case, and that's under investigation because apparently the police officer that shot her was also shooting in the direction of other officers who were behind her. So there's a lot of questions there. Not saying she should have been there in the first place. She most certainly shouldn't have. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't investigate what happened. Several people died from various medical emergencies. I understand there was a heart attack, a stroke, and someone fell from, I believe it was the scaffolding, and basically broke their neck, or they suffered trauma that killed them. this is all bad. And then one of the police officers died from blunt force trauma to the head because a rioter had hit him in the head. So this is bad. And the technocrats have decided that because of this, they're going to purge everyone that supported the movement that was there. Not necessarily the rioting, but the Trump movement. And so I kind of want to break this down a little bit. Now, I need to stipulate in advance. Never have I ever voted for Donald Trump. Are you shitting me? I didn't vote for anyone in 2016. Actually, I couldn't vote because I was away on family business. I was at my brother's memorial and did not have the time or the brain power to grab an absentee ballot or to fill one out before I left. In this year, I voted for Jorgensen. And I know that there are people in my life who are Trump supporters who will be very disappointed, and I know that there are people who in my life that are Biden supporters that will be disappointed I didn't vote for Biden. In my opinion, neither was a great choice. It's kind of like 2016. We were given no good choices. And so it's going to sound like I'm a Trump supporter. I am not. I think he wasn't that bad of a president. You know, the last week perhaps being the exception. He said a lot of stupid things. He did dumb things. He did good things. And that's where I stand there. You know, Obama did good things. Obama did bad things. You know, things that Obama did good. He tried really hard to reform healthcare. Do I agree with his solution for healthcare? Not entirely. It was a solution. It was a solution that got, I think, rushed. But I honestly, I think that he held an honest desire to try and help people who didn't have health insurance. It didn't work out the way that everyone thought, that everyone who passed it thought it would. And, you know, those mistakes happen. This is why it requires reform. On the other hand, Barack Obama dropped bombs on 16-year-old U.S. citizen in Yemen. That's bad. That happened. Turn around to Donald Trump. Donald Trump had a booming economy. He had those historic peace deals in the Middle East, in Morocco, in Sudan. He actually ended the war between Sudan and Israel, even though no one had been fighting it for like 50 years. Normalized relations between Israel and Egypt, I believe, and Saudi. Was it Saudi Arabia? Bahrain? I believe Saudi Arabia did. Normalized relations between Kosovo and Serbia. One of the Middle East countries that I got wrong. Someone fact check me on that. Those are all good. He botched response to COVID. I firmly believe that. Now, of course, he didn't have the authority to do what a lot of people think he had the authority to do. But he should have come out much more clearly on COVID. I firmly believe that. His speech on the 6th was absolutely a contributing factor to what happened. And that goes beyond a botch. That's a disaster. So, and I've been fairly consistent on this all the way around. The fact that he couldn't keep his Twitter shut was also horrendous throughout his entire presidency. But there's good things he did, and there's bad things he did. There's good things that Barack Obama did. There's bad things Barack Obama did. There are good things that George W. Bush did. There are bad things that George W. Bush did. If you want to look at a single president in blinders without comparison to other presidents, you're going to find good things they did, and they're going to find bad things they did. And you're going to find bad things they did that were really bad. All of them are guilty of bad things. And most of them got people killed. In fact, I'd say all of them got people killed. This includes Clinton. This includes both Bushes. This includes Reagan, Carter. Go back, find one president that didn't end up making a bad decision that got people killed. You're not going to find one. That's just life. But now, in place of that, we have the technocrats. And, I mean, we still have a president. Donald Trump is president until the 20th, and Joe Biden's going to take over. It will be a peaceful transition of power. Whether Donald Trump is still the president or if they invoke the 25th or they impeach him, it ends up being Mike Pence for the 8 days, I think. No. 11 days. There's 11 days left. Any action that's taken at this point is going to be largely symbolic. There is nothing Trump can really do in 11 days that will make anything better or worse than it currently is. I mean, yeah, he could go off the deep end, but there's enough safeguards in place to prevent him from going off the deep end and doing something catastrophic. So let's talk about this removal. Parler is an alt-tech social media site that prides itself on free speech. Now, it is also not an absolute free speech site. It disallows things that it has a broadcast standard. So what I mean by that is they don't allow things like pornography. Like Twitter allows pornography. Parler does not. That being said, when it comes to political speech, Parler's pretty much hands off. Unless it's illegal, because there is a such thing as illegal speech. You know, you can't incite violence. You can't incite a panic. And by inciting violence, usually it means inciting it on a specific person. I know that the Supreme Court actually has a standard for that, and unfortunately I don't have that pulled up. I've got some other stuff I am going to share you that's been pulled up. But what this is going to do, by doing these purges, by purging people off of Twitter, by purging them out of Facebook, by purging them off YouTube, they're going to go to alt-tech, which, okay, alt-tech, good. I think everyone should be on alt-tech, okay? If you're a successful YouTuber, upload your stuff to Rumble too. Upload it to BitChute. Upload it to Odyssey. Any of these other sites. And I know that YouTube's not going to like me for saying that, but what this does is it promotes healthy conversation. It helps break the echo chambers, because that's what people are in. When you decide only to surround yourself with people you like and the people that agree with you, and you won't even listen to people that you disagree with, then all you're doing is contributing to the disaster that happened on the 6th. Jonathan Pye put out a great video about this back when Trump won. It was the day after Trump won the election. And for those of you who don't know, Jonathan Pye is a British comedian, and he portrays his persona, Jonathan Pye, because the guy's name isn't actually Jonathan Pye, of course, the actor. But Jonathan Pye is a British commentator and comedian, and he's on the left. He's absolutely on the left. I don't know if he's Jeremy Corbyn left, but he's certainly Labour Party. And he's been Labour Party, and he's been very consistent about being Labour Party this whole time. Thankfully, he's also anti-censorship. But on his rant the day after Donald Trump got elected in 2016, and I will put a link down in the description to his video, if I'm smart enough to remember to do so. You know what? This is why we take notes. Jonathan Pye vid link. There. Maybe now I'll remember. He discussed the reasons that Trump got elected in the first place, and they were all on display right now. And actually, a lot of those reasons that Trump got elected are the exact reasons that Biden got elected. Because when you start mirroring a lot of the rhetoric of the other side, there's a split. Because the right stopped listening to the left, and the left has stopped listening to the right a long time ago. And so now we've got a schism. It's two worlds. Tim Pool described it as the same movie on two different screens with two different perspectives. And I think this is best portrayed. There's a bar that I really like out in North Dakota and Minnesota area called JL Beers. And when they don't have sports on, they have CNN on the left and Fox News on the right playing. Of course, there's no sound because it's a bar and you wouldn't be able to hear it anyway. They've got the closed captions going. But that really shows. And sometimes they'd be playing the same story, and the perspective shift between the two is jarring. Okay? Jarring. And this is before the Trump election. And it's only gotten worse. So yeah, we've got hyperpolarization. A lot of people I've seen on Twitter are calling for a peaceful divorce. I don't think that's the solution. I really don't. I do believe that better federalization is needed, and what I mean by that is not what most people are going to think, because it's a bad term. It's not a great word, and I don't have a better word for it. But basically, what it means is we need to reduce the power of federal government. We do. The president was never supposed to be as powerful as he is, and I know I've been promising some forays into the U.S. system, and I think I'm going to start that on Wednesday's vid, because I think it's time that we all look at the U.S. system and the beauty of the U.S. system and figure out the reason that we find ourselves in the cyberpunk dystopia we find ourselves in. Now, part of it's because of the tech companies, and unfortunately that means we're going to have to look at regulation. I don't like regulation. I am a minimal regulation person when at all possible. But at this point, the 4 big companies, Twitter, Facebook, Google, and Apple, and actually let's throw Amazon in there, so 5. We've got a big 5. I've mentioned this before, I think. They're basically they're a set of vertical monopolies that have formed a cartel. And it's the information cartel. And they're making it harder and harder for you to break out of their cartel. That's what cartels do. And so we need to look at this and be honest with ourselves. Part of the reason this cartel exists is because we helped it happen. We helped it happen because we became so brand loyal, we refused to look at other platforms. This is why Windows is still the biggest tech platform out there when it comes to operating systems. You know? You've got Mac OS, and they've got a small bit of market share. That's why Apple moved into the mobile platform and about dominated it. No, they did dominate it until Google moved in and bought Android. We could have Linux. And the more people that use Linux, the more of an incentive other companies will have to invest money in releasing things that are compatible with Linux. And yes, it's going to suck for a while. It's absolutely going to suck for a while, because the problem with Linux is that there's nothing compatible with it except for some open source stuff. Even the game you see on your screen right now can only be played on Linux through Wine, and there's no support for it from the core company. Other games that I like to play, they're Windows or Windows and Mac only, because they've been incentivized to reinforce this vertical monopoly, this cartel. So, okay. Before we go further, and I'm going to segue here for a minute, because I owe everyone a mea culpa. For those of you who caught it, I know there were 13 people who watched the live stream I did on Wednesday. And I was trying to suss things out, right? Something major happened. Everyone's in shock. And usually when things like this happen, like I had just gotten off the phone with my CO, and because, you know, when bad shit happens, the first thing I do is I check in with my CO. And I was still processing. And because I've got friends I normally process with, right? This is what I do. I process with friends, I process with family, sort things out in my brain, and then I do a show like this when I've got all of the pieces together, or at least I think I do. And I thought it would be a good idea, because I know a lot of people do this, to do something raw and where I didn't necessarily have complete thoughts. And it didn't go very well. And it didn't go very well because part of the problem was I didn't have my thoughts together for it. And I could not stop myself from trying to find a silver lining. Because there needs to be a silver lining. There has to be something good that comes of everything bad that happens. Okay? That's not always the case. But you've got to try. Because not doing that is damned depressing. So I'm going to mea culpa for that, because I shouldn't have done it. And I've taken that video down. I took it down, and actually immediately after the video was finished, just about. From all practical purposes. As soon as YouTube let me take it down, I took it down. And so what that has taught me is two things. One, process something before you post. And I think this would be a good idea for everyone. I think this is part of the problem that social media is so polarizing. We see something, you just get the raw emotional response. And that's basically what that video was. I mean, I wasn't in tears or anything, but it was just the shock, right? And when you're in shock, your brain doesn't process things properly. And sometimes you say dumb things. And what I said was largely, I was like, okay, there are some good things that can come of this. One, and I'm going to quote myself here. What I said was, one, it reminds Congress that they serve the people, even though this is the worst possible way to remind them. And two, it tells them that they need to up their security at the Capitol. That's what I said. Under the circumstances, not the best time to say shit like that. And that's absolutely true. And so I'm holding myself accountable to you, my viewers, that yes, I say dumb things sometimes, especially when I'm not processing things properly. So there, I threw that out there. And you know what? If me holding myself accountable means that you decide that I need to be held accountable more and you leave, I understand. I hope you don't. I think all of us, when we are raw in the moment, don't always articulate ourselves the way we mean to. But sometimes it is what it is. Okay. So, moving on. The ACLU actually gave a statement about what the Big Five have done, or the four of the Big Five, because Amazon isn't a social media platform. Well, no, they own Twitch, so I guess there you go. Twitch hasn't released a statement about this yet, but the ACLU released a statement about this, and I want to share it with you. You can find this on Twitter, and Kim Zetter, who is, and I want to read you her profile. She's a journalist in cybersecurity and national security, author of Countdown to Zero Day. I don't know which firm she works for. But I thought it was important because she was the first person I found that posted this. I know it's been reposted a bunch of times. But she was the first one I found that posted the whole statement, because a lot of people have posted a clip of it. And I think it's important that we get the whole statement because it provides context from the ACLU. And it says, quote, this is from the ACLU, quote, "For months, President Trump has been using social media platforms to seed data about the results of the election and to undermine the will of voters. We understand the desire to permanently suspend him now, but it should concern everyone when companies like Facebook and Twitter wield the unchecked power to remove people from platforms that have become indispensable for the speech of billions, especially when political realities make those decisions easier. President Trump can turn to his press team or Fox News to communicate with the public, but others, like many black, brown, and LGBTQ activists who have been censored by social media companies, and they, unquote, and they have, quote, will not have that luxury. It is our hope that these companies will apply their rules transparently to everyone," unquote. And the ACLU is right. The ACLU is absolutely right. It is terrifying that any company has this much power. And they do. And I know that there are a lot of people I know who cheered for this banning, for this purge, and think that everyone that got purged absolutely deserved it. And I would ask, at this point, have we reached the point where these platforms have become public squares? And that's a question that no one wants to answer. Like, there are some people who are emphatic yes, there are some people who are emphatic no. This is actually where I deviate from a lot of more libertarian-leaning folk. And a lot of people on the left right now, they're like, well, I'm a private platform. And it's like, it's a private platform until you're a monopoly. And when you're a monopoly and you cartelize with other monopolies to ensure you can't have competition, that's antitrust. So let's make a choice here, guys. We can utilitize them. I don't want to nationalize them. That would be the wrong move. There is nothing in this world that a company can do that government does better. There is nothing. In fact, usually government is the worst possible option for anything. Just gestures at everything. Look at everything. Two, so we can utilitize. We could nationalize. That's the wrong move. That is absolutely the wrong move. We could pass 230 reform, which I think would be the best move, requiring social media companies to only censor speech if it's illegal. So they are not allowed to censor legal speech. I think that's the best idea. Not that anyone's going to listen to me about that. Or the fourth, it's to say, if you pull anyone down that is not put in incitement, illegal speech, direct incitement to violence on their platform, because I know Patreon's deleted people for their actions elsewhere. If they don't do it on their specific platform, they need to get really, really precise with this. Then they aren't allowed to ban. I'm really close to being a free speech absolutist. I think threats are not okay. I think that incitement is not okay. And I mean deliberate incitement, not saying stupid things that people took badly and went off and did stupid things. But, we have a legal speech. We have a line. The Supreme Court has laid out a line on where that is. And for all the stupid things that people have said, that Donald Trump has said, none of them actually crossed the line. And here's the worst part. This is why I think this way. This is why I think that we need to do something legislatively, and I'm not a big fan of doing things legislatively. The technocracy does not fear the aristocracy. They don't. We have an aristocracy here. There are senators, there are representatives, there are our current and past presidents. This includes our incoming president, because they are immune. They're immune to scrutiny. They get scrutinized and they just shrug it off. The aristocracy includes the major journalism class, or the journalistic elites, I guess is what you could be. They're all kind of in the same category. But above them are the technocrats, because the technocrats control everything. Without the technocrats, I could not be on this platform talking to you. And I admit that. I couldn't do what I'm doing right now without those technocrats that have built up these huge structures. That doesn't mean I want them to have as much control as they have. And this is the perfect example. Like this, I laughed at this in horror. I want you to pause this video, go to Twitter, and type hashtag 1984. I want you to pause the video and go hashtag 1984. And you are going to find out that hashtag 1984 does not work. Probably because Twitter realized it was taking an action that was directly out of the book 1984. And this would not be the first time I have posted a photo of the person taking the book 1984 off the shelf and moving it to their nonfiction section. Because that's where we're at. Or we're getting damned close. Actually, I don't think it's 1984 per se. Technology is too... We've got too much high technology for it to be truly 1984. George Orwell didn't think we'd get this technologically advanced before that situation could happen, if it was going to happen at all. Or it could just be that George L. Orwell didn't foresee... I think it's impossible to have foreseen where we would be today. Star Trek got really close. George Orwell got really close with speakers in people's houses. I've got the Google speaker right behind me. I think it's still hooked up. Hey, Google. Oh, I guess not. So, my phone reacted instead of the speakers, so I guess that's not the case. Sorry if I activated everyone's Google speakers, by the way. This is the definition of a cyberpunk dystopia. 100%. And I'm not here to scare you. I just want to, you need to be aware. You need to be aware. Okay? You need to be aware, and you need to push back. Push back on your legislators and say, we need to do something about this. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent, Libertarian, Green Party, or a communist. Yeah, we had a communist on our gubernatorial ticket this past election, believe it or not. Like, on the line, it said Communist Party. I think it was gubernatorial. Pretty sure it was the governor. It might have been the lieutenant governor, but I'm pretty sure it was the governor. My Vermonter viewers, fact check me on that. I'm sure most of you, I would hope all of you voted. And there's one more thing you can do. And honestly, this is probably the most important part. Start talking to people you disagree with. Talk to folks who believe differently from you. I don't care if you're on the right or the left or the center, libertarian, socialist, don't care. Because that's how we're going to break this. That's how we're going to break this echo chamber. This is how we're going to stop the polarization. The biggest problem we have today is that people don't talk to each other. They talk at each other. They accuse each other. They start going off on rants at each other. You know, you're not going to agree with everything I say. I'm not going to agree with everything you say. Talk to people you disagree with. Watch stations and news sources and commentary you disagree with. If you're on the left, subscribe to the Daily Wire or the Blaze and watch what they put out. If you're on the right, go to the Young Turks. Subscribe to the Young Turks and watch what they put out. I'm dead serious. Because if you're not exposed to viewpoints you disagree with, all you're doing is sitting in an echo chamber. That's literally all you're doing. It's like putting on headphones and saying la 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 la. People like that don't exist, or they're just patently evil. Because before the results or the actions, the events of the last month, in fact, right up until the election, when Joe Biden won the popular vote and the electoral count technically came after. People on the right thought people on the left were misguided. Throughout the last 4 years, people on the left have thought people on the right are evil. Okay? That's not a good place to be. And now, people on the left think people on the right are evil, and people on the right think people on the left are evil. And people like me, who are somewhere in the middle, are going, guys, we need to turn the temperature down just a skosh. Just a little. Before more stupid shit like what happened on Wednesday happens. Engage in the debate. Engage with people you disagree with. Engage with me. You know? I don't think Barack Obama was that bad a president. He did a lot of bad things, but I don't think he was that bad a president. I don't think Donald Trump was that bad a president. He also did a lot of bad things. But for basis of comparison, I don't think we've had a terrible president my entire life. Now, keep in mind, I can't remember Ronald Reagan. I was too young. The only thing I remember Reagan doing was saying, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. I watched that on the news. I was like 6. It's the only real memory I have from being 6. Was watching the wall come down on live television. That was awesome, by the way. Maybe it was a replay. I can't say it was live. I cannot say it was live, but I did watch it on the news. Let me correct myself. Let me correct myself there. Because if we don't engage with each other, if we don't start talking to each other, if we don't talk to people we disagree with, don't condescend to them, don't talk to them like they're not, people of equal standing with valid opinions, talk to them like equals. Even if you don't believe they are, talk to them like equals, because then they're going to feel heard, and then they're going to be more willing to listen to you. And this is critical. And most importantly of all, and I would encourage people on both sides to do this, bring receipts. Bring evidence that your point of view is valid. You know? Don't just bring it from activist websites. If you're on the left, don't be pulling it from don't be pulling it from the Daily Beast, right? That's not a great place to be pulling evidence from. They're not a news site. They're a commentary site. Okay? If you're on the right, don't be pulling it from I know the right has activist websites. A lot of the former activist websites actually toned down their shit when they got rid of their founders and became news sites. Like Breitbart, it is a very hard right-leaning site. They still report the news. They admit to their biases, but they still report the news. That's another company that has a lot of issues. Trying to think of a straight-up right-wing... Well, the Donald dot win. It's basically Reddit for the far right. And I wouldn't even say the far right, for Donald Trump supporters. Because there are a lot of people that are Bernie supporters that supported Donald Trump. Believe it or not. You don't have to agree with them. But they did. You know, go to... Bring actual evidence. You know, Gallup. Rasmussen. Go to cdc.gov if it's something about a disease, or to the Congressional Budgetary, what the hell is the name of it? CBI or CBI? Wherever you get the labor rates from. Make it government websites. Okay? Bona fide news sources, which I know there's a lot of small independent media out there that are in fact bona fide news sources. People like Elijah Schaefer, who's definitely on the right, Andy No, who I think is actually center left. It's just that people on the left really don't like him. Tim Pool. You've got there are plenty of them. They're reporters. That's what they do. Hang on, I gotta save a ladybug from itself here. Stupid. Oh. Too late. I tried. So... Oh, maybe it's still alive. Ha! I saved it. I know, I'm weird. I save ladybugs for some reason. Lost my train of thought. Oh. Engage with them. Debate with them. Talk to people you disagree with. If you think someone's radicalized, talk to them. Find out their point of view. Find out why they think the way they did. Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis is a man who de-radicalized 200 KKK members. 200! Now, Daryl Davis is black. He went to KKK rallies. He invited the whatever the leader of the KKK, it's like Grand Wizard or whatever the fuck they call him. He invited him to an interview. Guy shows up. Did not know Daryl Davis was black. He's got a bodyguard there who is armed. Okay? They talk. And I don't know if he got invited or if Daryl Davis asked to attend the rallies. But he started going to KKK rallies. A black man went to KKK rallies. This happened. Look him up. He's got some great TED Talks out there. And by talking with them and listening to what they had to say, even though he disagreed with all of it, and spending time with these folks, they started to listen to themselves. And they would say something, or they'd hear something that was the quote-unquote party line, and they'd be like, wait, Daryl's not like that. From what I understand, Daryl now has one of the largest collection of KKK uniforms of any individual. They were all given to him by the men he de-radicalized. That is the power of talking to people you disagree with. That is the power of listening to points of view you disagree with. Because when you do that, you have the chance to change their minds. But what's happening right now on social media is only going to make things worse. And if you're one of those people that says we can't tolerate intolerance, you've got to deplatforming. It works. Platform them. It works. No. All you're doing is making things worse. All you're doing is making things worse. Because now there are people out there who claim that Daryl Davis is a Nazi because he had the temerity to spend time with people who thought he was beneath them. You know, human garbage. And he talked to them, and he got them to think differently. It blows my mind. You have got to be willing to engage with people you disagree with. Don't shout them down. Talk to them like a human being. I don't care if you're on the left, the right, the center, socialist, or libertarian. Because the alternative is really fucking ugly. There have been conflict reporters. And by conflict reporter, these are journalists who deliberately go into conflict zones, who have been saying that things are looking really bad. When conflict reporters, when people who have deliberately not literally parachuted, but parachuted themselves into places where revolutions happened, say, I've seen this movie before, you know shit's gone too far. We need to turn the temperature down. And it needs to be sooner rather than later. All this crap that's out on the news where our politicians are fighting each other and calling each other friggin' names that are actual World War II Nazis. That's not acceptable. That should never be acceptable. Because believe me, I studied World War II for 12 years. I studied the history of totalitarian regimes that existed during World War II. We're talking fascism, we're talking Nazism, we're talking communism. And there's a difference between Soviet communism and Maoist communism, and I've studied them all. Actually, there's some pretty marked differences between Soviet communism and Maoist communism. No, Maoist communism is far more dangerous than Soviet communism, and Soviet communism is bad enough. Okay? And there is a difference between fascism and Nazism. There is. The only reason that you don't really hear about it is because they're always lumped in together, because Italy and Germany were basically BFFs throughout the whole war. Actually, Italy was pretty dependent on Germany throughout most of the war because they didn't know how to build tanks. So, a couple of things you need to realize, and I think that this is something very, very important for everyone to hear. One, we have never had fascism or a fascist in power in America. You know, think what you want about Donald Trump. By definition, he's not a fascist. Two, we have never had socialism or communism here in America. Think what you want about Barack Obama. He was not a socialist. Okay? He was probably a social democrat, but not a socialist. There is a difference. There is a big difference. In all likelihood, we will never have either. Especially not in the way they were back in the 20th century. Could we go there? Yes. It could absolutely happen. But it's not very likely to happen. Because, for the most part, we've learned our lessons from those really bad times. But the solution is not pairing off into echo chambers. It's not creating a fissure between left and right and then trying to determine what that is, because apparently liberals are on the right now. I'm still trying to figure the math out on that one. It's just maddening. The whole thing is maddening. And I don't know what the solution is. And my hope is that we can We can figure this out. We can all start talking to each other again. We can have our disagreements. We actually listen to what the other side is saying. We come up with counter arguments. And wherever we can, we come to some sort of a compromise or consensus. Because there's a lot of dangerous things being said in the world right now. A lot of them. So we need to be able to tone it down just a little bit. I'm saying this to people on the left, and I'm saying it to people on the right. Whatever those terms mean anymore. Because really, left and right is kind of meaningless at this point. And that's how we're going to stop the technocracy and the aristocracy from this huge power shift that we're experiencing. Because that's how they're doing what they're doing. That's what they're benefiting from. This is why they're getting so much more powerful. Because they're helping us polarize. The only way to break that is to talk to people you disagree with. So okay, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I'm sorry, guys. I did not mean to preach. I'm nervous. I'm concerned. I won't say I'm scared. There's a little bit of fear there, but it's more fear for my family and my friends than for myself. Because I used to be in emergency services. You know, there are people talking about civil war. It can happen. I don't think it will happen. I think that we will figure this out before then. I've got an optimism bias. I will admit that. But I used to work in emergency services. I was a firefighter for a little over a year. My first call. I'm not even sure I can say what it was on YouTube. Let's just say the depression got to someone. So that's small scale. And of course I've been to car wrecks and things like that. So I've seen some pretty nasty shit in my time. Okay, mangled trucks, crashed cars. The smell. I don't want that to become America. And that was just from everyday life. Can you imagine what war would be like on our territory? And it wouldn't look like our American Civil War. It would look more like the Troubles. It'd be internecine. It'd be small groups, small, fairly organized groups fighting each other, and civilians would get caught in the mix, I'm sure. It'd be a lot like the Troubles. In Ireland. Go look it up. Go look up the Troubles in Ireland. But I'm not looking forward to that possibility. I don't want to see it. Because I have a pretty good rough idea of what it looks like. Sorry. Okay, you know what we're going to do? I think we're going to end it here. If nothing else, if you've made it this far into the video, take 5 minutes. Just 5. And think about what I've said. Do you know someone that you disagree with? Are you willing to talk to them about their views? And all you have to say is, look, I know you disagree with me on this particular item. I know it might be that you disagree with each other on a lot. Just say, I want to kind of keep it to this, but I want to know your point of view and why you believe what you believe. And then listen to them. And then ask them questions. And if you do that, in all likelihood, they're going to want to know your point of view. And they should listen to you too. And you may not agree, but that's the first step. My hope is that we can get the temperature turned back down. It needs to turn back down. You know, we have a great thing here in the United States of America. This has got to be the most unique governing structure ever created. But we only have a republic if we can keep it. And we can only keep it through compromise and consensus and making sure that we can still talk to each other. Okay, that's all I got. I'll be seeing you on Wednesday, and I think it's time that as long as nothing else explodes, because 2020 is over. That's great, am I right? Thanks, 2021. I actually posted here's a parting shot. I posted a meme I found, and it said, I want to return 2021. I finished my 7-day free trial and I'm not interested, or something along those lines. So, times are dark. Be the torch in the darkness. Because that's all we can be. Our torches through the darkness. We've got to navigate the cyberpunk dystopia. This is the Julien McBain Show. Julien McBain Show is a McBain Manor production. Moderators Kat, Jay Lambertson, and Captain Aubrey. And a big thank you to my patrons, Red Kryptonite, Jay Lambertson, and Spectrum 3600. Again, without whose support, this would be much harder. I want to thank everyone for joining us here, and we will see you in the next episode.